Hello, and welcome back for another episode of Monolock music, Sandakan music, Sharon Graziani. Today we will talk about something kind of cool. I think it's something that, let's say that it's the second most important after EQing, I think, or more important, I don't know, it depends on your production, on what you're doing. Or basically, let's call it dynamics. Dynamic is, it's something that it's, actually I see it as, it's really technical, but I see it as something artistic that you use in a project. Mostly, my approach to compression is really simple. I don't see it as a fixer. I see it as an effect, and this is how I use it in my project. I know that in many production today, modern music, it's used almost on every channel, but I don't believe in that. I believe that if the source is good and you get exactly what you want from synthesis or hopefully recording, this I think that when we get to recording, live recording, it's the most substantial, like the most important. It's really to use compression, because over there you have other issues that comes into light in the computer or in the synthesis world, because basically when you synthesize you have the possibility, sometimes also in the plugins or the process itself, to make a compressed sound or full sound and to do the right envelope. And basically compression is used to change an envelope or change the way that the sound react, which means that the simplest way to say it is to take what is sitting up high and to reduce it by volume, and to let what's sitting down in volume to go up, and in a way to compare them or make them some kind of one unit or closer to one another, that the dynamic between the lowest point of volume and the highest point of volume will be manageable, instead of taking a slider and take it up and down, you know what I mean. And in this place, again, seeing for my clients that send me mixing and mastering, I can see that there is a lot of misuse of compression. Like, sometimes I ask, okay, you put a compression over there, why? What was the decision making? Why did you put it in a certain point, also in the, you know, in the insert or in the hierarchy of production? Why over there? Why before the EQ? Or why after the EQ? And to understand really the motives. Most of the time, I think that, again, we see tutorials, good tutorials also, that explain us, okay, if you want to have this result, so you do this, and people go to the specific settings. I was also in the beginning was doing this, doing specific settings that not necessarily is fitting what it was necessary or what the result that I wanted. And then I was disappointed, of course. Again, one of the things that here in the channel I have really tried to do is to make you think. In the end, there is no rules to music production or mixing or mastering. Of course, there is certain things that it will be almost the same in the end by every mixer. Or like, if you need to use a compressor, you use a compressor. If you need a fast attack, you will do a fast attack, and if you need a slow release, you make a slow release, or whatever. So the result mostly will be the same, but meaning that there is no rules. That don't go to a setting just because somebody says so, because there is a million ways to solve an issue, also with specific plugins or hardware. I look at this, especially when it comes to technical stuff like equalizing and compression, that it's like a mathematic problem that you need to solve. And most probably there is a few ways to get to the result that you want. And sometimes, like, if you don't copy and you try to get your own style, so you get to really interesting situation. So let's dive in and see what we have. I prepared a small session. So let's go to the first compressor. The first compressor that I want to talk about is very versatile. It's called Presswork by UE. This compressor is basically holding within it every typology, almost. I think that it's possible in compression. Very versatile. I like to work it because it's really nice. You can do a lot of stuff with it. You don't need it's like everything in one tool. It's this how you call it the all-purpose solution. So let's do some examples. As you can hear and see, what it's doing now, we have a very fast attack, which means very fast attack. It's catching the first transient and immediately working. We are talking about 0.10 milliseconds. I want you to hear the difference between feed forward and feedback. It's really like, hopefully you can hear it. But the feed forward will be much more aggressive and much more fast. And with the feedback, you will have the transient a little bit more loose. When it's on the same setting. Then the knee, what I was trying to explain you before, now we are on a really strong knee, or hard knee it's called, which means that the reaction is really snappy and harsh. And we can take it slowly to the soft knee area. You can hear that the influence of the compression is a little bit more soft. I mean, this is why it's called soft knee. It's a little bit more musical, a little bit more relaxed, less aggressive. You can hear the pumping now when we have a harder knee. Like this, it's less pumping. Let's try again the feedback and feed forward. Much more musical. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's much more pleasant to the ear. Again, it's a small nuance, but it's small nuance that make a big difference. What I will do now, I will change the settings of the attack. That mostly this is the most important part of compression, beside all the rest, is the settings of the attack and the release. We let a little bit more transient to come in. So you hear that the first transient, the kick, and sometimes the snares and the crash coming out very strongly. But in the moment that the first transient, or to be precise, what comes 15 milliseconds after the first transient, it's choked by the release. Okay, now we can also take the release and put it on the fastest setting. This is without. So we have more pronounced transient now that it's the release is off. Okay, now one of the nicest things, especially in drums, like just in a small example, what I like to do in drums, let's go to the settings over here. Especially in rock music, it's custom, depends on genre or purpose, but to crash the drums, all the bass, like all the instruments that are connected to drum, because when we are talking about live drum, for example, so when you go to record it in the studio, you record everything. You record the kick, the snare, the bass, not the bass, sorry, the bass drum, I mean. The overheads, the crashes, everything, you record it. Okay, the microphones are setted around, but in the end, you record it all together to different channels, and usually you treat it as one unit. In electronic music, again, I do it differently, but in rock music or in live recording, or if you even emulate something like this, so we'll treat it a little bit different. And in many times, it's really nice, and I like it at least, is when you use something live to give it a little bit more aggressivity, if this is what you're looking for, is to smash it. And smashing it not with some kind of distortion or whatever, but with compression actually. So you hear what's going on, I guess. This is the original. See how beautiful it is. This is what I'm checking now is the Sidechain Monitor. It's basically, it's listening to what this area is doing. This is the trigger, the feedback or feed forward of the detector. Now you can see that here, to create this effect, the ratio is crazy. It's like 20:1, that it's basically limiting. The knee is crazy also. You can see how aggressive it is. They use the typology of feed forward to make extra aggressivity, but I think that there's a can open a little bit the attack. But if you want to smash it real good, so the attack should be as fast as possible to get the first transient and to push them down. So from something really sweet and classic drums, you have something that cuts through the mix, cuts through the situation. It's big, punchy. maybe not that punchy, but you know what I mean, like it's present. Okay, so this is the basic thing of simple compression, which means that we use the attack, we use the release, we use time settings to let the detectors know where to go and what to do. We can use the sidechain to decide what direction to take stuff and how to do it. Let's see how it works on vocals, for example. Okay, so we go to our vocal, do a press work.
She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get off, you went to Vegas.
I on purpose didn't put a song or anything.
Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I want you to see in speech, for example, that it might be easier, also in vocal. You see that the sentence over here, it started really low in volume, gentle. And slowly it's increased until in the end.
Well, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are.
Shouting.
She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
No, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She
Okay.
went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
No, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
No, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are.
So in here you can see actually how it works. And for example, in television, when I was working television and in recording of live conversations and situation like this, it's important. Compression it's one of the most important tools because you need something that sometimes we talk slow, not slow, but low in volume, or we talk louder, or even we shout, the news and everything. So there needs something to regulate the volumes. Think about that. If not, the technician in the studio is always needing to run his fingers all over to take down channels, and now he's shouting, now this, now you understand, like you need something to regulate it. And this is the tool to do it, actually. You can hear the difference.
She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
No, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas.
You can hear that also in the detection itself. It's really much changing volume while it go.
She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas.
And this part and this part.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
No, I'm not in love with her, Leonard.
They are not different in volume
Vegas,
anymore.
you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. In love with her, Leonard. You are.
Let's do it.
You went to Vegas. Yeah. In love with her, Leonard. Vegas. Yeah. You went to Vegas. Yeah. I'm not in love with her, Leonard.
There is a big difference in volume that actually we don't need now to do with the slider to change it or do some kind of automation. It do it for us. We need just to know the right settings to do it. So let's say that
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are.
In this case, we don't need a transient in this type of vocal. It's not the thing that interests us. What we want is to keep balance. So
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. Yeah. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba.
So the transient is not the important part. The important part here is to catch the vocal as it is and to make it not moving too much. No so much difference when you start to say something and finish. That it's not sound like the things are coming and going, and you understand what I mean. So yeah, it's like taking it, and this is why the release is slow relatively and not fast, because you don't want this pumping effect. And the attack is on the fastest setting. Then fast forward for feedback, feed forward and feedback. let's say like this. If I will use it on somebody that talks, most probably I will use a feed forward. If I will use it on a singer or something like this, I will use feedback because the effect. Why people are using LA to A for singing? Because it have a reaction. It's like something really airy, something because of the typology and because the way that it works, it's really nice. It's really smooth. It's really enriching the situation and the transient and take it in a way that it's low and nice. So yeah, this is on vocals. And the last thing, let's do this on some kind of arpeggio or sound.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Couldn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You.
Like in this situation, let's say let's see, the compressor is not here. There is no compression, so I think that in a sound like this, for example, okay, I would design it differently to get to the result that I want. But let's say that I don't want to design it, or this is what I got. Okay, I got from a client now a track, and I have this arpeggio over here that it's already printed into a file. I cannot change anything about it, but I can use my tools, compression, equalizing, and so forth, to make what I want. And what I want, for me, it's boring. Really flat. And the fact that it's something plucky doesn't make it shine. It's like kind of, I want it to pump a little bit. I want to take it out. So, okay, what can I do? I will put a press work, like I usually do. I will give it a little bit of compression. Again, in this situation, I wouldn't want to use a lot of compression because, again, depends what you want to do. But I don't want to influence the sound so much. I want just to create a pumping effect. Okay, let's put it on feedback. And let's listen and bypass it. Original. You hear like when can hear how when it's bypassed, it's something like the sustain is more substantial than the transient itself. After compression, that I try to do it kind of gentle, a little bit more plucky. Again, to get it perfect, most probably we'll need to tweak a little bit more. We need to decide also in the sidechain what we want and how we want it to influence. Let's try. Bypassed. Can understand what I was trying to do is to eliminate the fact that everything under 675 will influence the compressor, which means that only the part that have these spikes. Let's see over here. Like everything above, you see that this is the resonance. So this is that it wouldn't influence much the rest of the envelope. So this is kind of released. Maybe I can go to 800. And he used this area to give it definition of attack and release. And again, it's not a big difference because I don't want to influence the sound. I just want to create a little bit more snappiness or behavior that in a big mix it might make a difference. Again, here it's individual. In a case like this, I wouldn't use compression again unless I have it in a context of a full track and to give it a little bit of what I need. I wanted to show you another types of compression, which means the bass compression. Again, on the presswork, if you want to look at it again, you have all the type of typology. You have basically, because of the type of a compression or compressor tool, you have all this option over here to get to the result that you want from one tool. You can do also Varimu. It's imitating many type of compressors and tools. But let's say most people maybe that don't have presswork and want to use something else. So we have these types of compressors that are used for specific things and not necessarily all in one tool. Let's start with the bass compression because in electronic music it became a thing, not only in electronic music, but you know, everybody that makes music heard about the amazing SSL bass compression. Bass compression should be used carefully, and it works the same. Usually the typology is like this. I on purpose didn't bring to see the SSL. Everybody knows the SSL. I try to bring something different, so I brought the better maker one. That also over here you have the threshold, you have the attack, the release, the gain. So I brought here the Acoustica Audio plugin Ivory 1B. It's simulated after a very famous tool that used in mixing and mastering, very transparent one, this one, but still really amazing. I use it many times on mastering when needed. Again, we have the ratios. As I told you, in mastering, sometimes you don't go to ratios that are so high. You can also see, because it's a mastering tool, the ratios are not going so much high. Like in the SSL, you have also 10, because the SSL is sometimes also used for mixing, for basses. So maybe you need a little bit more compression, like to make, as I said, smashing the sound, or to make some kind of effect. I will use this one usually on the 1.4, on the 1.6, as a bass compressor for a full mix, to glue thing. Like this is a word that you hear a lot, gluing, gluing, gluing. So yeah, we will use the same. The way that this one is work, you have an input, you have an output. Between that, you have a filter that you say, again, like we have in the press work, you can tell the detector from which frequency to start and to behave. Here it's only high pass filter that start from off and go all the way to 300 Hertz. The idea behind it that if you have a track or a song or anything that you want to treat with bass compression, and you don't want certain frequency to disturb to the work of the compressor, you can eliminate them and cut them off. Usually, if you have a heavy bass track and you want to try to compress it, so you will use this to take out the low frequency that they wouldn't be influenced by the compressor, and the compressor will be able to work more naturally and wouldn't be triggered by the low note. Beside this, you have the attack ratio, that in this case you have it stepped. It's good for many reasons. One of them is recall. Okay, we are in the digital realm, but here it's step. Attack from a very fast attack, 1 millisecond, I guess. 3 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds, 30 milliseconds, 100, 200 milliseconds. This is a really slow attack. Basically, with bass compression, what we want to achieve is to handle some kind of the peaks, but we don't want to destroy it. So we want some kind of something that will pet our track, or whatever track it is, and give it a little bit of togetherness. And usually the setting on a traditional SSL, it will be fast attack, like let's say the 200 or 100, depends on the material, and very fast release. Again, it depends on the relationship between the bass and the kick and everything. Sometimes you will want to do a very fast release to let everything to pump and jump and be excited, and sometimes you will want a little bit more reserved behavior. Here we don't have it, but on the SSL one you have the auto release. That auto release, it's giving this detector kind of automatically to decide how to behave according to the material or the signal that you have coming in. And usually a lot of people say that it's giving a really nice effect. So yeah, why not to use it? Let's do a small demo. So we see that we have a signal coming in. Let's tame it a little bit because it's coming inside a little bit aggressive. Let's do a fast release, fast attack. All the way. Let's hear how it sounds. You see in this setting, for example, we have attack, very slow attack, very slow release. What gives the first, it actually doesn't give so much for the transient to pass because the release is holding everything down. Now again, if you ask me personally, for my purpose or my workflow, is barely touch the compressor. The compressor should bring in its own sound, because these compressors have their own sound, mojo, let's call it. My behavior with it will be maximum 1 dB. You can hear what he's doing. If you want to retain it a little bit more, you see how it behaves, this area of the gain reduction? It's not so jumpy anymore, but we need to change the threshold. Okay, now we're 1 dB reduction, only influenced by the kick. Bass drum. Now we take off kick drum. You see, suddenly it doesn't influence at all. When it's off, what influence everything and reduce everything, this is why you have this pumping effect, is the kick. But in case that we take down all these bass stub frequencies, it doesn't react anymore, and we will need to add threshold. Suddenly, you hear in these settings, suddenly everything that is above the kick sounds much louder and much more out there. So again, it's the question, what is the result that you want? But usually I will use a bass compressor, as I said, in a context of a full mix, that I want a little bit to give everything to be together. Let's try just for the heck of it. I know that it will sound horrible.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. You went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. You flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Didn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me.
Let's try to push it here.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Didn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own.
Now we have a few materials that come inside. You have the kick and bass, not bass, kick and drums. You have the vocal, and you have the sound itself.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you.
So we have a few things that influence it. Okay, it's not mixed, it's not like it should be, but it gives you a few different dynamics, because the kick is kicking low and the vocal is coming up and down, because we didn't treat it here, not controlled. So I do it on purpose. And we have all this behavior of the peaks and everything that actually is controlled with the arpeggio.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Didn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
Well, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas. She flew to Cuba, you flew to Cuba. Didn't get authorization for the expense. Paid it out of your own pocket.
I had to. You wouldn't back me up.
Well, I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas.
So you hear that it's kind of putting it's image-wise, because I don't know if you can hear it as well as I do. It's taking all the components that I have, all the channels that I have, and they give it some kind of something that wrap them together. This is what I use bass compression for, and this is what I think it's good for. Another type of compression that I want to talk about, it's multiband compression. That is also a very, very, very strong and important tool when it comes to mastering or controlling specific frequencies. This is kind of modeled after a specific hardware, and I really like it. It's really special, the way that it works. I know that we have this multiband compression from other companies that are versatile, modern, and this, but again, also with plugins, when it comes to too much options, I tend to not use it. I want something that it's giving me a very, again, it should be sounds nice, it should be working to my needs, but I want as much less decision making that I can to get to the sound that I want. Because if you have the option to open as much bands that you want, sometimes it's a good practice, but sometimes it's not necessary. Like that you have too much options, so I will do this and I will do that, especially when you are not really knowing what you are doing. So it's harder to commit to something. And in this type of tools, not specifically that, but this type of thinking, typology, that you have something that you have to commit to. So again, what the difference is between this guy over here to this guy over here, that in a way you have 3 times a single compressor divided to 3, and also divided, besides it divided to 3, it's divided to frequencies. So as you see, you have the filtering. The filtering is starting from 100, it depends what you choose, from 100, okay, to 1.5K, which means that the first compression will work from 20 to 100. The second one will be from 100 to 1K, and the third one will be from 1.5K till 20, okay? And you can change it according to your material and what you want to achieve. Let's say that a normal setting, for me again, the way that I work, will be somewhere from 200, okay? So 20 to 200, 200 to, depends on the material, 3 or 6K. And this is the basic setting of the filter that I do. Why? For me, it works like this because I tend to divide the sound spectrum, okay, to bass, heavy bass, and mid bass, that I want them to work together. Again, I'm mostly working with the electronic music, so it's kind of a practice that with time I got used to. So for me, until the 200, mostly it's the mono area of the track, the area that I should concentrate on the kick and bass ratio. I don't have so much information of mid or like leads and pads, and the vocals are usually not crossing this area unless there is a little bit of leaking between frequencies, and sometimes, okay, vocals also have something in the 200, but it's mostly reserved to the kick and bass in these areas. So I start like everything that it's a compression of bass areas, it will be until the 200. Then the 200 until the 3K or 6K. Why 3 or 6? 3 or 6, it depends on how things sounds. Hopefully I don't make it to a mishmash out of things, but I think about it in this way, that in some tracks, depending on the key that I use, in some tracks the mid-range or the mid-highs will be finishing around the 3K, and sometimes it will finish after the 4 or 5K, which means the area that the high notes and the hats and the partly and stuff start, sometimes it will be lower, okay, depends on the track itself, and sometimes it will be higher. So I divide it in a way, it depends on this. If I will have a vocal, for example, vocals are usually sittings in the area of 4K, like pronouncing it around the 4K. and I will want to treat it as in one unit inside the track, and that I don't want the high frequency will influence it, like the hi-hat, for example. Again, electronic music, you have a really pronounced bass and kick, and you have very pronounced open hats or closed hats or hi-hat, because we try to do this smiley face way of thinking. And I don't want that if I blend the 4K, because if I choose the 3K and above, will be influenced by the hats. I want it to be clean or will be part of the mid-range, and then I will choose to influence the last area of the compression higher. Let's see how it works.
I'm not in love with her, Leonard. You are. She went to Vegas, you went to Vegas.
Okay, so you can see we have all the spectrum here influenced by our detectors. As we said, it's work exactly the same like this, so it means that if you compare it one to one, here we say here we don't have filter because the filter we did over here, so it will be a full range, which means 20 to 20 or more, and we will have again the ratio for each one. Here is the ratio, you will have the makeup gain, you will have the release and the attack and the threshold, okay? That here it's called trim, low, mid and high. So we divide it to 3. Again, for the purpose of this demonstration, I will do something like this, and then I will explain you what is the idea behind it. Ratio, I will take a low ratio, let's take the 2. Just for the heck of it. Usually, again, if I use it in mastering, I will use a lower ratio settings. And the idea is like this: we isolate the bass. Okay, we have this area 20 to 200. And again, gain reduction shouldn't be over 1, maximum 3 dBs. Again, the ratio here is 2. Usually we use a more delicate ratio, but for this demonstration we use the 2. Related to compress a little bit. Okay, let's say that it's okay. We'll want to make it a little bit more aggressive. Okay, this is will be a kind of so this is will be mostly a setting that, let's say, that I will use. The idea behind it is to tame the low end, to shine a little bit the mids. Let's see the difference. A little bit all over the place, so the idea is again to tame it. As you hear, it's a little bit more mid-forward. The kick is tamed and the high area is tamed. So as you understand, a little bit more tamed than before. Now, usually what we do in a case like this, now if we want to make a makeup gain when we reduce the sound or reduce the dynamic or the volume, usually it's also influence the perceiveness of volume, and also the dBs is going down. You reduce 3 dBs as we see on this. So we take 3 dBs out of the original signal. So usually we'll compensate with the makeup in every compressor. Try to do it also here. Now, the cool thing about it, that also in a mix or mastering or whatever reason that you're using this kind of processing, you can also tweak a little bit in 3 stages. You can tweak the sound, which means that you can decide that, okay, I miss a little bit of a high note, so I can give a little bit more makeup gain to the area of 3K, in this case, still 20K. I give it half a dB more, or I have too much on the low area and I want to enrich a little bit the mid area, so you can give to the area between 200 and 3K in this case a little bit more pronouncement, and to control also the dynamic in this case, but also to control the overall balance. And it's a nice tool to do that. Beside this, we have other type of topologies that I want to show you and talk about it. So we talked about the bass compression, the multiband one. Then we have limiters. Limiters is basically, as we said before, limiters are really high ratio compressors that the good ones between them are giving you the possibility to limit basically the 0 point, which means that in a normal compression it shouldn't be a problem for it to cross a specific area, and usually it's above 0. You don't want to create distortion. And a brick wall one or modern limitation usually are precise in what are the limits of the limiter that you shouldn't pass it. In this case, what we are looking here, it's a very, very famous mastering limiter by Bettermaker. Again, nobody's sponsoring me, so I do it after researching. I don't have this tool with me, but I worked with it in the past. The idea is 2 things over here specifically. One, it's a compressor that takes the signal and push it in a way. Here I have this scheme over here that I wanted to show you. Basically, what types of compression we have. We have the VCA, the opto, the varimu, the FET, the PWM, and the diodes. That every one is used for a different reason, mostly. The VCA is the most common one, also the opto is a common one. They work, as you see, the gain reduction, the difference, the big difference of everything here is, but not just, is the way that the detector is working. So in VCA, voltage control amplifier, it's work with some kind of a algorithm that it's, we are talking about hardware now, that it sends a specific voltage in, and it knows how much reduce by measuring the voltage that come in. Usually the VCAs one, like the SSL and others, are really fast, they're working. As you see, they're very flexible. They say that the behavior is linear. Let's say that it is. I guess that attack and release are really fast, really precise, really to work on stuff that are. We have the opto. Opto is working on optics. So opto, it's a photo light cell. Light cell is it's reacting to certain light source. It can be a lamp, it can be a LED, it can be any type of, I think that the newer one works on LEDs. Because of this way of working, it takes more time until, a bulb, let's say, is lighting in. The component in front of it that observe the light or detect the light, it take it a little bit more time to work. So it's working slower than normal. They say that it's a little bit more coloring the sound. Again, most probably because of the topology and the way that it works. Let's say that in a way, it's like the feedback, it's opto, and feed forward, it's the VCA. Okay, more aggressive VCA is more aggressive, more versatile. Opto is a little bit, okay, if I'm not mistaken, it's the LA to A is opto. And it works in a more musical way. Varimu, it works on tubes, which means that the reduction happened when a signal goes through a tube, and the resistance of the tube to the situation, beside the reduction and the release and all these controls that happening through the varimu, the tubes itself. Because the sound go directly through the tubes and whatever electrical current over there, it's really much colored, what we call the warm sound, not only because the tubes are heating, but most probably also because they are heating. Usually the varimu are used really, really, really gently, because you don't want, they are usually very, very slow. But here they say that it's medium reaction, so it depends, I guess. But usually tubes work slower or different. FET, the example that I have, that it's 1176, a very, very famous compressor. The unique part about this compressor is that you have all in the 1176, I mean, that you have all this ratio, the 2, the 4, the 10, or whatever, and you have something that it's, I think that it's developed with time, because it was this pulsed, punched in buttons to choose the ratio. Some technician decided to press all of them together by mistake or by purpose, and they discovered that if you push them all together, there's some magic happen. So this is one function that they use it. FET is stand for field effect transistor. So as we said, it works through a transistor. The transistor is the one that regulates the gain reduction. It's having its own color, especially in higher ratios. It can be distorting and it can be nice. Usually it's used on drum because it's fast, as we said. It's pretty much flexible. It's a cool tool. Again, in my world, electronic music, I don't use it as much. I don't find it necessary. We have the VCA, we have the opto, we have the varimu, so we can use this one. It's like It's like very mu. So diode is also going through some kind of a component like Varimu. If I'm not mistaken, it's working most probably in a different topology. Maybe it's not directly through, like Varimu, it's going directly through the tubes. Diodes, it's going away differently. I guess that's it for today. I hope that I was touching everything, or mostly everything, in this subject. It will be nice of you if you will write downstairs to tell me what your opinion is about, or it will be nice if you will write downstairs what do you think, and if you have some questions, and if you want to go specifically more into details on a specific product or specific concept of compression. Very important, we don't have sponsors for this video, but if you look, we have this online virtual shop, also on Amazon, and also on Thomann that we are affiliated with. If you need anything to purchase, you have the examples of the equipment that I use here in the studio. And also, you can find a piece of equipment that we recommend, like these and other components. You can check our channels on Beatport. You can check our channels on Facebook, Monolock Music, Sandakan Music, Sharon Graziani. Shagra Recordings is where we release all our music. If you know and you have music that you want to try to send us a demo, feel free to send us a demo to Facebook. We'll consider it. We are really particular with the music that we release there, so feel free to try. And that's it for today, folks. Thank you for joining me. Please press the like button if you like what you see. Write us, it's important for us, your feedback. We like when you write, when you participate, it's really important for me. It gives me also feedbacks of what you think or what you are interested, and I try to bring this idea into episodes. Feel free to subscribe, of course, and to share it with friends, and we will see you next time. Bye.